Thank you and good morning. Before I start, if you're going to be wondering through my presentation why a guy named Vavra is speaking to you in English and not Czech or even Slovak, Sem Vavra, ale Vavra z New Yorku, proto. So I'm just briefly, I want to give you an overview of what IDC has learned in our market research about the role of cybersecurity in the era of digital transformation. I'm not here to lie to you. I'm not here to paint a pretty picture. The situation is not particularly encouraging sitting in your chair when you're dealing with digital transformation, but there is some good news, and these are some of the things that I'd like to talk to you about. So this is an IDC presentation, so of course you're going to get some data, some research. These are the results of some survey that we've taken through the region of Central and Eastern Europe, and asking people what do they feel is their biggest threat or vulnerability that they're facing at the moment. At the moment, unintentional data leakage or loss by employees is something that a lot of companies in this region are focused on. Malware, external hacking, top 3. Now, the interesting part about that is if I were to show you the same survey results for the last 7 or 8 years, this is exactly the same results you would see. In other words, each year, IDC runs a series of roadshows on IT security. We ask everybody who attends, what are the things that you're dealing with? What are the problems that you have? And each year, the top 3 answers are the same. So what that says is that we're not doing something right. If we keep spending money year after year after year, and at the same time, we're saying that we're dealing with the same problems and they're not going away, something needs to change. However, there are a lot of new things that we need to deal with when we're talking about digital transformation, shadow IT systems and solutions becoming more of a problem, the additional challenges that face companies in dealing with cloud security are substantial. So in addition to the traditional problems that everybody's having year after year, we have a new set of issues that everybody has to deal with as well. And of course, that's not making things easier. When you talk about digital transformations, you're talking about introducing a whole new wave of types of technologies like we see here. Artificial intelligence, cognitive systems, AR, VR, big data, what does smart cities entail? I mean, in short, what it all means is that we're dealing with more devices, more types of technology, and more data, all of which needs to be secured. Again, additional challenges that everyone is facing in the era of digital transformation. So, when we talk about digital business, what are the fundamental requirements for a successful digital business in the era of digital transformation? We need to enable digital transformation, not stand in its way, but be an enabler to the introduction of all of those types of technologies and areas of operations that we just saw. So at the same time, we have to maintain or even improve our security posture, remain competitive on a business basis. So again, that's not letting IT and particularly security practitioners be an obstacle to new business. Compliance is a challenge. We heard about that earlier. And with the new era we find ourselves in, our landscape, our infrastructure is a lot more complex because it's interconnected, not only internally in the different departments, but with our partners, with our clients, with our providers. So that means that our infrastructure is becoming a hybrid right now. It's not only on-premise, but we got cloud, and managing those different platforms becomes an issue and something that needs to have a decided focus within the organization. And as I said, now at risk are not just our data, but it's our customers' data. It's our providers' data. It's anyone who's interacting with us on a social platform, for example. That's where the data sits now. We've long since passed the period where everything is in-house. Therefore, reactive security is not going to cut it. We have to be proactive. We have to look ahead to what types of challenges we know we're going to face based on the introduction of a new technology, a new set of devices. The cost of responding to attacks grows exponentially now that you've introduced this hybrid environment, because managing those incidents and mitigating them becomes a lot more problematic. And therefore, we need to be proactive. We need to look at things like threat hunting, mitigation, risk management. These are the new paradigms for the cybersecurity practitioner of today. Which is why, in many respects, I say that the greatest threat that cybersecurity practitioners face these days, it's not an external bad actor. It's not an internal threat, a disgruntled employee. It's complexity. It's the sprawl of the landscape that you have in your IT security practice these days. And managing all of that is becoming a top priority. That's where the greatest threat lies. So where is the funding coming from? Here we see what are the key drivers for pushing increased IT cybersecurity budgets. Security audit findings is a big factor here. A response to a security incident, something that's caught us off guard, and we realize that it's something we weren't prepared for. We need to spend more and do a better job of that. Risk analysis is becoming more important, and a whole host of things that are now pushing IT security spending. What I find quite interesting here is response to customer demands and requirements. At least 16% of respondents this year said that that's a real factor in increasing their security budgets. Just a couple of years ago, that would have been 0. So it demonstrates the fact that increasingly companies are realizing and responding to what their customers want. And in some cases, it's the customers themselves are saying, if we're going to continue doing business with you, you need to achieve X, Y, Z in the security space. So that's a really important consideration as well in listening to customers, because that's becoming an increasing challenge for a lot of companies and something that they need to respond to. And finally, we asked how are companies addressing these challenges. Increased utilization of existing staff is one way. Now, I could have shown you a chart where I've used before, where it shows a forecast of the number of types of threats that we can expect to see over the next 5 years. It goes like this. At the same time, against that same axis, we chart how are your security budgets going to increase, how are your internal personnel headcount going to increase. That's like this. So threats are going like this, everything else is flat. So companies need to do more with their internal staff. Automation is another option and an increasingly looked to solution. We're in the early stages here in Europe, I would say, in terms of security automation, but it is something that is coming under increasing consideration for a lot of IT security practitioners in the region. Outsourcing software as a service also under consideration, and growing the bottom managed security services. A lot of companies have come to the conclusion that we need to look to the outside to help us in terms of managing our cybersecurity needs. We're not going to be able to do it all internally, so we can look to external providers who specialize in this to help us. So, today's realities in conclusion are lack of resources, a lack of tools, a lack of visibility, and the quality of processes. On the bright side, however, yes, total cost is still the most important criteria when selecting an IT security vendor. Cost is always a consideration. However, in our research, we found that at least a third of organizations here in Europe will increase their IT security spend in the coming year. On the flip side, less than a quarter have sophisticated ROI calculations in place to be able to say whether we are doing a good job. As I started my presentation, we keep doing the same things over and over again, but we're still in the same spot year after year in terms of what we're facing. So we need to do a better job of actually demonstrating to management, yes, this that you paid for helped us, and we can show you that. So those budgets are increasing. When you can show that, budgets will increase, business will respond. That's been clear in IDC data and research that management is now coming to regard security as a business issue. So my final piece of advice to you in the era of digital transformation is learn to say yes. One of the biggest challenges in digital transformation for any cybersecurity practitioner is going to be able to be seen as a partner, as a friend, as someone who's working with you in terms of what you want to achieve in your business. Not just someone who says no all the time, but get into the practice of saying yes right up front when anyone wants to introduce something. When you say yes, you have control over how it's deployed and how it's used. If you don't, if you say no, people are going to use this stuff anyway, it's going to go black, and that's going to be even a bigger challenge to you. So, as I said, one of the biggest tasks for you, I think, going forward in digital transformation is being seen as a partner, as a friend, as someone who's here to help you achieve your business goals, and not just someone who's going to stand up here and say, no, you can't do that. And with that, I will conclude. I thank you for your attention, and I hope you have an informative rest of the day.